Back to politics now, and there'll be a cabinet reshuffle this weekend. Let's bring in the National Senate leader, Bridget McKenzie. Thanks for your time. The Prime Minister said that his government has been one of the most stable in recent times. 2 years without a move, that's a fair point, isn't it?
Well, no one's been shifted, despite there being ample need for many of the ministers who've been underperforming to actually be moved on. I think you've seen a recalcitrance, shall we say, from the Prime Minister to actually move on underperforming ministers. We have the hapless Minister Giles, Minister O'Neill, who's overseen that, Murray Watt as Agriculture Minister, who the National Farmers Federation's actually moved a vote of no confidence in, Linda Burney and the failed referendum and, ability to actually do anything meaningful to change the plight of Indigenous Australians. So on every measure, there's a raft of ministers within his government who have not performed. Catherine King has cut and delayed over $27 billion of road projects and rail projects in over 3 budgets. So each and every minister, I'm saying, is underperforming. So he hasn't sacked anyone. That doesn't mean they're any good.
The PM will announce his new look team on Sunday. It is an opportunity, as we've seen by governments before, to plug some gaps and put stronger performers in some weaker areas. So we would expect that. And I guess heading into the election, does that not then put the government on an election footing? When would you expect the PM to go to the polls?
Oh, well, that's a matter, as always, for the Prime Minister. I think what we're seeing when you talk about refresh and rejuvenate his team, he's obviously in a need to do that. He needs to focus on competence. I would suggest the Australian public deserves a government, no matter which colour, that actually has the best people possible in the team. Unfortunately for the Labor Party, and you saw it in the announcement today, he's announced there's going to be a reshuffle, but he's got to go check with his factional and union bosses about who's actually going to fulfil those roles. And I think that's the disappointing part about what will be announced on Sunday, is that it's actually had to go through this subterranean approval process, which doesn't mean the best people will get the jobs. It'll be the best union promoted, factional boss approved people that will get to the job. And I think that will be to the detriment of the Australian public. I don't know when he's going to go to the poll. I think Australians are getting very tired with this government's inability to address the concerns of theirs, which are obviously cost of living. Number one.
So much comes down to that issue, of course, yeah. And we've got the CPI out next Wednesday. Much anticipated, one of the most anticipated economic bits of data I can remember, because it feeds into what the RBA does in August, Bridget McKenzie.
Yeah, absolutely, Kieran. I mean, anybody with a mortgage, anybody who's renting, what Michelle Bullock and the RBA do come that first week of August, I think everyone's looking at eagle-eyed. The government's inability to have an economic plan that puts that downward pressure on inflation is making her job harder and harder. And you've either got 2 ways to go. You've got interest rates go up to quell demand, or unemployment goes up. And I think it's a really horrible situation that we're in, where we're betting on Australians having to lose their jobs as a way of actually getting inflation under control, when the Labor Party continues this rampant spending, which is making her job harder and harder. Savings and the offsets accounts have been used up that were accumulated during COVID, and Australians are absolutely every month sitting down wondering how they're going to make the mortgage repayments. So it's everybody watching coming weeks to see what's going to happen, not just from a political perspective, obviously, because that will drive Labor's decision-making about elections, but obviously how people are going to make ends meet.
Almost out of time. I do want to get your thoughts on the drama out of the United States. It's been an extraordinary period. Today, that speech by President Biden. The government has been very cautious about its language around this, saying regardless of who wins in November, the alliance is on a firm footing. Are you as sanguine about the contest in Washington?
Well, I think the relationship between the United States of America and Australia is intergenerational, it's above party politics, and it's our strongest and most successful alliance, to date. And that will continue no matter who is the president come post the election in November. At the end of the day, we want whoever is the president to be one that's committed to keeping trade open and transparent, and also committed to fighting for liberal democracies that are under threat, no matter where that happens across the globe.
Bridget McKenzie, National Senate Leader. See you next week. Thanks.
See you, mate.